Our next speaker was the Grand Marshal of this parade in 1979. He works tirelessly on behalf of this parade for more than 20 years. He has personally raised in excess of $500,000 towards the operational of the cost of this parade every year. Without him, there would be no television or webcasting of this parade. He grew up in the Bronx, is a supporter and a friend of Cardinal Dolan and the church. He has been involved in the parade from the day he was born. That's because his mother was a teacher at St. Margaret's of Katona in Riverdale, in the Bronx, where he grew up. He is the president of Quinnipiac University and the chairman of the St. Patrick's Day Parade Board. I give you Dr. John Leahy to introduce the Grand Marshal.
Thank you, Hillary, and my thanks to all of you for your great support. This event is extremely important in helping the cost of the parade each and every year. So we're indebted to you. We appreciate your support, particularly this year. It's my great honor to introduce Senator George Mitchell, our Grand Marshal for the 2016 St. Patrick's Day Parade. As you all know, Senator Mitchell has had a distinguished career in the U.S. Senate, representing Maine. He also had a distinguished career as Senate Majority Leader. Our Consul General has noted several of his major accomplishments during that period. I would just add that he is without question one of the most respected political leaders that this country has ever produced. We in the Irish and the Irish American community know him best and admire him most as the peacemaker. The person who led the peace process, the Good Friday Agreement signed and completed in 1998 that brought peace to Northern Ireland. As the Consul General also mentioned, what better Grand Marshal for this year, the 2016 parade, celebrating the 100th anniversary of the 1916 Easter Rising, the beginning of Ireland's independence. Please join me in welcoming Senator George Mitchell, our Grand Marshal.
Thank you all very much for being here in support of this great event and for your warm reception for me. Dr. Leahy, Hillary Byrne, Consul General Barbara Jones, distinguished aides at the head table, thank you all very much. It is for me a great honor to be asked to speak here today and to serve as Grand Marshal of the St. Patrick's Day Parade. I have to note, however, at the outset that I am about the 12th person to be introduced here today. So I feel like Zsa Zsa Gabor's 12th husband on their wedding night. I know what to do, but I'll be damned if I know how to make it interesting. But I'm here, so I gotta try. This is, of course, a great event for two reasons. The first is that it enables those of us of Irish heritage to share in and to remember those who came before us and make it possible for us to live here in what is the most free, the most open, the most just society in all of human history. And this being the 255th anniversary of the first march of this parade reminds us of just how many came before us and on how many shoulders we now stand. It's a special treat for me because while my father's parents were born in Ireland, he was born in Boston shortly after they emigrated to the United States. But he never knew his parents. His mother died, his father couldn't care for the children, and my father was raised in a Catholic orphanage in Boston. He spent many years there and finally was adopted by an elderly, childless couple from a small town in Maine. They were not Irish, and so my father had no real sense of his Irish heritage. When President Clinton asked me to go to Northern Ireland to see if it were possible to bring to an end the long, bitter conflict that for so many years hung over the North like a heavy, unyielding fog, I really didn't know much about the history or about my heritage. He told me it would be just a few weeks. Fortunately, or unfortunately, it turned out to be 5 years. And in that time, I gained a personal sense of my own heritage and of my father's history. Be able to walk on the same land that my ancestors had walked. Be able to meet, talk with, and hear people who may have known my ancestors filled, for me, a void in my personal life that I hadn't previously even known existed. And since then, I've had the wonderful opportunity to meet Irish Americans all over this country. As many of you will be aware, there are in the United States more Irish Americans organizations than there are Irish Americans. And I've been to most of them. And I can tell you, it is a great and warm feeling to be part of the heritage of the great people of Ireland. And we celebrate it here tonight and on March 17th when we all will march in the St. Patrick's Day Parade. But I think it's also important as we celebrate our heritage to also remember our gratitude for being Americans. Before I entered the Senate, I had the privilege of serving as a federal judge in my home state of Maine. I enjoyed it very much, mostly when I presided over what are called naturalization ceremonies. They're citizenship ceremonies. A group of people who come from every corner of the earth, who'd gone through the required procedures, gathered before me in a federal courtroom in Maine, and there I delivered to them the oath of allegiance to the United States, and by the power vested in me under our Constitution and law, I made them Americans. It was always very emotional for me because of my father's history, and also my mother, who was an immigrant herself from Lebanon. She could not read or write. She spent her entire life, 55 years, working the night shift in a textile mill. My father had no education, and he became a janitor at a local school. But because of their efforts, and more importantly, because of the openness of American society, I, their son, had the chance to get an education that they never received and to become the leader of the United States Senate. After every one of these naturalization ceremonies, I made it a point to meet and speak personally with each of the new Americans, individually and in family groups. I asked them where they came from, how and why they came. They told me of their hopes, their dreams, their fears. Their stories were all inspiring, different as their countries of origin, but through them ran a common theme, and it was best summarized by a young Asian man when I asked him why he came here. He said, "I came because in America, everybody has a chance." Think about the fact that a young man who'd been an American for 10 minutes, who could barely speak English, was able to sum up the meaning of our great country in a single sentence. America is freedom and opportunity. To be able to live our lives as we see fit, to practice our religion, to say what we want to say, the freedom that most of the people who've lived on this earth in the beginning of civilization have not enjoyed. And opportunity for every member of society. So just as I, whose parents were uneducated, my mother, as I said, couldn't even read or write, just as I had a chance, so should every single child in our country have a chance to go as high as their talent and willingness to work will take them. And so, as we march down or up Fifth Avenue on St. Patrick's Day, let's all keep in mind what it is we're celebrating as we march. Where we've come from. When I left my family's home to go to school, my father, who spoke very little, who had a very difficult life and didn't talk about it much, said to me, he said, "You're going away to college. You're a smart young boy, you're going to do well." He said, "But I want you to look over there." He pointed across the kitchen table. He said, "There's your mother. And I'm your father. And wherever you go, and whatever you do, don't you ever forget where you came from." I hope on March 17th, every one of us remembers where we came from and where we are going as a country. This has been a very serious day. I don't think it's appropriate to have an Irish event without a couple of jokes. So let me tell you just two short stories that are out of my experience in Ireland. After the peace agreement was reached, I got a lot of invitations to go around Ireland, and I got a lot of awards. In one case, they asked me to come, and a bridge had been destroyed in the conflict, and it was rebuilt, and they named it after me, and they called it the Peace Bridge, and they asked if I would come and participate in the ceremony. I went. I have to confess I was a little disappointed. It was only one span. The river wasn't even as wide as this floor. But it was well-meaning. And when I had several meetings, a lot of people asked about my father and my family's history. And when I told them truthfully that I really didn't know much about it, father never said the word Ireland in his life. He knew nothing about his own heritage until much later in his life. Most of them were a little disbelieving, and because for them, genealogy is important. So a couple in the audience offered to work for me if I'd hire them. They specialized in discovering the roots, mostly of wealthy Irish Americans. And I hesitated, I didn't know what to say, but the local mayor, who had quite a good sense of humor, said to me, "Senator," he said, "if you pay them enough, they'll connect you to Brian Boru." I didn't pay him. That reminds me of another story that I learned early today from a friend, Clive Anderson, here about Brian Boru. A story about a guy who was born in Ireland, had a tough time, but he came to New York and he did pretty well. He had a restaurant and a bar in the south side of Manhattan. And then he went back home. He wanted to tell him how well he'd done, which some people do, as you know. And when he got to the airport, he saw a lot of people selling a lot of things. And one guy had a counter in which he was selling skulls. The guy said, what are you selling? Skulls? What is that? He said, well, these are skulls of very famous Irish people. He said, look here. He said, I've got the skull of St. Patrick. And over here, I've got the skull of Brian Boru. And he went down the line with showing each skull, and the fellow said, well, that's pretty impressive. He said, I've always admired Brian Boru, so I'd like to buy his skull. So he said, well, he kind of surprised. It isn't very large. He said, well, he said, Brian Boru had a small head, I guess. So he bought the skull and came back to the United States and put it up on his bar. Became a good talking point for his customers. And a couple of years later, he went back again. He went by the same stand. Same guy selling skulls. And he looked, and there was one, the skull of Brian Boru. He said, well, how can that be? I bought Brian Boru's skull 2 years ago. He said, well, did you notice how small that skull was? And the man said, well, yeah. He said, well, that was Brian Boru as a young boy. He said, here's the king. Thank you all very much. Have a great evening.